This week on Backyard Footy.
Ultimately, for me, when I'm talking to anybody about their future or their ideas about their career, whatever, it ultimately needs to come down to what you're not miserable doing. Like if you want to play soccer and you love soccer that much, then play it as long as you can. If you've got it, do it. But there comes a point which you see in 9 out of 10 players is they need to make money before they play soccer, and when the money doesn't come from soccer, then they lose soccer because they got to spend their time doing other stuff. So you got to figure out if you want to spend your time being happy and possibly not making enough money, or work on something that's going to bring you money so then you can play soccer and not have to
run the city.
What's up, footy fans? Welcome to the 18th episode of Backyard Footy with your host, Hugh Roberts. We're getting ready to go to morning stretch with my trainer, Thomas. I'm going to take you to my morning routine a little bit, show you what I do, and head over to the gym. Welcome to the 18th episode of Backyard Footy with your host Hugh Roberts, where each episode I dive into the backgrounds, journeys, and experiences of professional athletes, former athletes, and anyone that's been involved with the game. Backyard Footy is brought to you by the BGN network of podcasts. That's bgn.fm on the internet. You can also follow them on Twitter at the BGNFM. I have a very special guest here with me and a brand new perspective that you guys have never heard before. Thomas Mayhugh from George Mason University. I had the pleasure of going to college with him. We've kept in touch over the years, and it's just so happened that here we are 2 years later living in the same apartment complex. So it's good, homie. How's everything? How are you enjoying Charlotte?
I love it, man. It's way nicer not having to figure out like how to get into the city, because you're up in Nova and Mason. It's like you want to go to DC, it's a chore. Like, who are we gonna stay with? How much is it gonna cost to get there? But now we can take a scooter in the city, bro. Like, that's honestly, like, when I go back up and people ask me like, how do you like Charlotte? The number one thing is I'm like, everything is so accessible. There'll be weeks where I'm like, oh shit, I have a truck here. I don't need a car.
Seriously,
I mean, other than like going to like out where y'all feels at,
I really do not. When I come here, I don't drive my car at all.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It is, and people are like, they'll like, I had a guy that saw my truck the other day. He's like, damn, that goes those gas, and I'm like, not here.
And it's cheap too. The cost of living, even gas is pretty cheap too. But you could have gone anywhere though, so why Charlotte?
Well, honestly, my girlfriend's family lives down here. They lived here since we graduated college, and we had always, moving south started with my roommate wanting to move deeper south, like into South Carolina. So that kind of put the bug in our ear. But then last summer we were talking with her family about possibly moving, and they were like, why don't you just come to Charlotte?
Right.
And so then like the ball started rolling in my head, and I mean, I was coaching soccer up in Nova and training a lot of people. I knew a lot of people up there, but realistically I could do everything that I do up there down here. And I've always been one that complains about the weather and stuff, so which it can be annoying, but Nova, like, the winters can be miserable. Like I have a seasonal depression. You can ask Casey, you guys, anybody that hate me in the winter because I suck, and it's like I let the weather affect my mood. So moving down here, weather was a big thing, and then having her family down here, because I'm big family oriented even up there. So that was tough, but it's not far enough that you can't go back. So that's the other cool part.
That's nice that we're just down here too.
Yeah.
I know the ease into you living into the city.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you usually do out here for fun, like restaurant wise?
Well, I'm a big foodie type person, so as soon as we got here, we did a lot of, I mean, we still are, because there's so much good food down here, but that's one of the things that we do is like, let's try a new restaurant over and over again. I mean, there's some places that we have gone to multiple times just because we like them, but since there's such an abundance of good food, it's like, all right, let's try something else. Let's try something else. So we do a lot of just bouncing around to different restaurants.
Yet to try like all these places here. I mean, the weather's been just okay, but now that it's getting better, like there's a bunch of stuff.
Well, I'll have a bunch on my belt.
Yeah, we're going to a bunch for sure.
And you'll be able to skip all the ones that you don't need to try.
Nice.
Because there are some. But yeah, we do a lot of that, and then, I mean, there's so many breweries and bars and stuff. It's so easy to just like take a lime to a bar and hang out.
Even in the South End area, it's like a walking distance.
It's so. I mean, I haven't even been here long enough to be able to really give you a good perspective of like what else there is to do. I mean, right when we got here, football season was wrapping up, so like there's the games you can walk to. They had the bowl games down here, so. Honestly, I'll like Google like Charlotte events and just see what's coming up.
Follow the IG page. I follow like 5 Charlotte events.
It's like, but it does also feel like every week a new something's opening, and it's like, holy crap, another brewery's opening up. Thought we had enough.
What is your like normal day consist of?
So I'm doing ever since being here. So when I was up there, I did a lot physically. Like I was up early, training at Orange Theory, and then I would have my facility that I was working at where all my athletes were, and then I was coaching soccer, so I was like physically on the go all the time, which I liked because I like being busy, but I also was starting to formulate all these ideas of like what I wanted to do later on, and all I had time to do really though was like jot them down. So then when I got here, I didn't physically have much that I needed to do, so I was able to sit down, get online, start organizing my thoughts, putting stuff into action, and building out some online programming stuff. And then now that the spring's rolling around and everything's getting better, I'm looking to get out with all the soccer teams. And then
season down here is in the spring, right?
Yeah. Well, girls for high school, girls soccer's in the spring, men's in the fall.
Gotcha.
But typically now, I mean, now that we've been working together, I'll wake up, get some stuff done before you, come train you, then I'll work out, and then I'll go kind of back to work. I started an email newsletter, so every day I write. I've always wanted to write and share experiences or just be motivational or whatever, and it's kind of just like a diary, but I make it for other people to be able to read. So I get that done early most days. I mean, every day isn't perfect, but do that, and then I don't know, every day kind of has its unique.
And I feel like, I mean, people, you talking about this like blogging thing, newsletter and stuff, people need to and want to hear your story too. Like, yes, you might not be a professional athlete, or sure, you're not like still continuously playing like that, but like only 2% of collegiate athletes, people in college in general, really go to the professional route. So it's like, what else is there to do? And like, you're a prime example of that. You know, you've played top level soccer as well, and not necessarily because of your control, like things didn't work out, but you're still around the game, and you went still a different course, and you're still affecting it. So I mean, that's why I feel like, you know, getting your perspective and just seeing this in general is like vital, because a lot of kids obviously have big aspirations and dreams, but then you get older and you realize like, all right, this is not gonna go this way anymore. I need a plan B. And so like, this is a perfect prime example.
Definitely.
I respect that.
Definitely. It's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you can give me a question. That's good. I mean, I can go into like my story if you want.
I got you in a minute. So you went to the Charlotte Independence Atlanta game, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Was that your first USL game?
That was, yeah. Well, whichever y'all's first home game was. Was that Atlanta? No, Indy 11.
Indy 11.
Indy 11 was.
Oh, that was your first?
That would have been my first USL game.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because I've never lived near where a game would be.
Yeah.
I've seen like highlights of it and stuff online, but.
What do you think of the USL, like the game in general?
I mean, I think
enjoy that?
I enjoy it only because, like, I know what it's there for, and I think it's just taken. The thing that I wish was that it didn't take so long for it to become what it is now, and it still has so much further to go that they want to go. But I think that it is nice to be able to live in a city and know that you have a pro soccer team that is looking. I mean, I know Charlotte's like big on the list of trying to get an MLS team because they have a stadium, they have all this stuff. So it's nice to be able to have that, and I think the quality is right on the cusp of where like it needs to be able to funnel people up into the MLS. Right now, though, what I think kind of diminishes it is that ex-MLS players drop down instead of it being youth players coming up and going into it.
That trend is coming. Like you said, it's still early in that way, but I really wish we had this when we were
Dude,
younger. Like
I know, and like Loudon just created a team.
I
could have like that. When I was trying out, if Loudon had a team, I could be pro right now.
The chances of them taking you is even higher now too because of the big teams. Like they're willing to take a lot more players because like, all right, you can get minutes with the USL team and see how you develop, and then see how you work your way up. When it never used to be like that.
Not at all. Like it was, and I mean, it all has come in the past 2 to 3 years of them just restructuring the USL. USL getting the bid for being the like sole Division II basically, because they were competing with the NASL for so long, and it was like, and now it's finally looking more streamlined. Like, look, we've got our PDL, our USL two, we've got our next division, and then we've got USL, and then we got championship, which can funnel in. But it's on the right track, and it's cool. But like I said, it's definitely, it's good for ex-NFL players to be able to continue their careers. But until they're able to bridge the gap and bring youth players up into it somehow, like because they're trying to model it like overseas, which makes sense. But it's in the right track. I
think it's a good path for high school and youth players to go.
I mean, yes and no. I don't think especially kids like middle school, high school right now. Like if they have their sights set on it, I'm not sure if that's what they should be having their sights set on, like straight up, just because it's not like you're up at all, not even close yet. Like where you start in the academy at younger than 10 almost, work your way up because you know that the premier is that premier. Like their like 2 and 3 level is like where MLS is. You know what I mean? So like it's tough only because I think when they get there they're going to be underwhelmed. But obviously, there's always the exception. There's always the outliers who are going to be good enough that you're going to make it to the MLS. You're going to make the big money. But like that gray area in between is what the USL is for them coming up, and that's what I want them to realize. If you're in it now, it's one thing, but they're almost too old. You know what I mean? And it's tough to like have to say that because it's still But having been in it, like knowing how they treat like the not top guy, it's kind of whack, you know. And if you don't have other shit going on, it's like
I know guys are on contracts, like pay to play contracts, where you're not getting paid unless you play in a game or unless you make a travel roster. So basically, you're practicing for free, and unless you make the roster, you're getting a little change.
And I'd be perfectly fine doing that.
Yeah.
If you're the right age and it's what makes you happy. Like because ultimately for me, when I'm talking to anybody about their future or their ideas about their career, whatever, it ultimately needs to come down to what you're not miserable doing. Like if you want to play soccer and you love soccer that much, then play it as long as you can. If you've got it, do it. But there comes a point which you see in 9 out of 10 players is they need to make money before they play soccer. And when the money doesn't come from soccer, then they lose soccer because they got to spend their time doing other stuff. So you got to figure out if you want to spend your time being happy and possibly not making enough money, or work on something that's going to bring you money so then you can play soccer and not have to worry about the money part. So it's it's this double-edged sword that it sucks, but that's the way it is right now, unless you're freaking Messi.
You're a young trainer. How do you kind of make a name for yourself in these beginning stages,
That's a good question. When I first started, I was lucky enough to be working underneath someone who was still relatively young too, and kind of instilled in me, and the company I worked for instilled in me like continuing education, like continuing to learn, and knowing that you don't know anything really is big, which is crazy because even now what I do know, they were even kind of wrong. It's even on the next level of that now. So making a name for myself was never my goal, and that's a big thing. Is like you can't go into it being like, all right, I'm going to become the next Instagram famous trainer. I want to train X, Y, and Z pro athletes. Anytime anybody's ever asked me that, I'm like, look, most of the pro athletes are pro. They don't know me. They didn't get there with me. I didn't bring them there. So what's the point of me training them? Sure, it looks good that they respect or trust me to train with me, and I would never be like, oh no, you're a pro. I don't want to train you. I'm too good. you know, I don't want people to associate me with pro. That's not what I'm saying. I would rather spend my time building up players, learning about the development it takes to become pro, and then have pro guys respect me because of that, or have my guys go pro because of that. So when you get it, let me back up. A lot of college athletes and former athletes. Bro,
It's snowing right now, and this is like.
it's supposed to be 80 degrees on Saturday. What the hell? That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Shit. This is why I moved here, so for no snow. Anyway, a lot of former athletes, and even people who just like consider themselves fit or consider themselves, they enjoy working out, they hit a roadblock in their career and they're like, shit, I'm gonna just be a trainer. I'll pick up one pro client and then boom, I know everything. It's like, that's the one thing that I understood from the jump, and I think that helped me, because it's all about longevity. Like, you can make a name for yourself, but if in 5 years if people don't know who you are, you know, I'd rather have no name and then in 5 years have been building my name. And I've never thought of it in the way that's like, people need to know me, because I find those people to just be like annoying, and then you kind of realize that they really don't know what they're talking about. And that's a whole nother bag of shit. Like, our industry of performance is just like so social media based now, so
especially with IG and
right.
taking over. It's like, I mean, like you said earlier, if you don't do this for the money, that's where you get your real passion at. But if you're doing this for the money, you're doing it for the wrong things, like, you'll quickly get exposed.
Yeah, I mean, especially with training too. Like, it's almost on the same level as soccer. Like, the money is typically lower at the beginning. In personal training, it's the same type of thing. You have to, if you don't have the experience, you're not going to get paid like a pro trainer, because you know you don't have it yet. So you have to understand that going in and figure out and take pride in what will ultimately make you more money, and it's your experience. Just like with a sport, you have more experience, you should make more money. You've been doing, and if you're good at it, so take the time to become good at it, and the rest will take care of itself. As opposed to being like, let me take the time to figure out how to make the most money right now. It's like, set yourself up to make the most money later. So
do you like market yourself like on IG, or how do you get yourself out there?
So yeah, I have my Instagram.
What is it?
At Mayhugh Athletic.
Gotcha.
So you can follow me on that. But I'm building out more athlete-based stuff, because I mean, I'm a trainer across all spectrums, but I do enjoy, obviously, having been in the soccer world, I enjoy training soccer athletes. I've trained tons of women's soccer athletes, more so than guys, just because they're so prevalent up in Nova. Like, women's soccer is huge. Yeah. So I'm trying to do more stuff on my Instagram that's soccer specific and just athlete specific. But I don't really I've never done like a sponsored ad or anything like that. Like, I don't need, because I mean, Instagram is tight, but ultimately it's gonna go away.
Right.
Like, it's got to at some point, or it's gonna transform into something else, and you're gonna have wasted so much. Like, I get it. So I do a little bit of both. I mean, I do tons of stories because they're easy and that's where everyone's eyes are anyway right now. But like I said from before, I don't use it as a straight up return on investment. Like, I need to be posting because someone's paying me for what I'm posting type thing. So
I like that. Like what you said earlier, like, you don't really need social media like that. So if it's something that happens, like, you still have a strong clientele without it. You know, it's like when you, like I said earlier, like one, you don't need social media. Two, when you have like, you know, good resourceful amount of people already behind you, like, you're good. And that's kind of, I'm doing coaching now too, and like, I've been reaching out to a bunch of people. I'm starting to get a lot of people to book me more in advance now earlier because like, they've been with me with some time, and like, I don't even market myself with that coaching as well, but because like another teammate of mine, Brandon Miller, who runs it, but because he does a good job promoting it as well, and like, people see what we do hands on, like, they appreciate it so much more.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the best clients are people who've been referred to you, because someone who already trusts you took the time to tell someone about you and thinks that they're going to be a good fit to work with you. You know, you can't just go out and be like, hey, come work with this person, because not everybody's the right fit both ways. It's like, do I want to train them, and are they even coachable?
How long have you been a trainer for?
The end of 2013 or 14, so Probably right around 5 years. Right around the time where you really start to actually realize that you know nothing. I'm right there.
Yeah. Right. And like you said earlier too, I mean, a wise person, a wise trainer knows you really can learn every single day and every single year. I mean, even now, this is my 6th year as a pro, I'm still learning things this year that I didn't even know myself. And I mean, that just makes it more fun and it's more enjoyable. And each and every year has been different, and I enjoy that some. It's been a challenge, and you just learn yourself and out of that stuff too. So.
Have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I think so.
So it's like there's a graph. Like you can literally Google the Dunning-Kruger effect, and the main thing that will come up is this graph, and it's basically the amount of time you've been doing something on the bottom, and then the y-axis is how much you know, or how much you think you know, and the graph goes literally like just started at 0, so don't know anything, haven't been doing it at all, and then like been doing it or just finished a certification, or just started, just got your first client, it skyrockets, like I know fucking everything, and you've been doing it for 5 days, and then it literally just drops and goes down, and then it's like the longer you've been, it's like 5 years in, still don't know shit, and then it just slowly goes up from there. Which absolutely happened to me. Not in a cocky way, but there is a way, as soon as you become a trainer, where like you hear an older trainer teach you something, and then you think that that's like the golden ticket. You're like, oh shit, I learned one thing, that's what's gonna set me apart. And then and now 5 years from now, I look back to what that could have been, and I'm like, that was actually completely wrong. And I'm sure it's the same as soccer. You learn something from veterans.
Same, like my first 3 years in Richmond, of course, that was a good veteran team. I learned a bunch, but my 3rd year in the league, 2016, defended the year finalists, had some success. I'm not gonna lie to you, after that year, I'm like, man, Major League was good. I already knew. I'm straight. I don't need to be in the U.S. anymore. I'm good.
After the game, it was like, where is everybody at anybody want to interview me?
Where's my trials? Where's this and that? And to be honest with you, I am such more of a complete centerman now than I was 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, you think I thought I knew some shit, and then I go to a bunch of different teams, go through a bunch of trials, and play different positions and stuff, and I was like, man, like I really did not know a lot of these things, and I'm very thankful. Obviously, it sucked at that point then, but now at the point of my career now, I'm like, man, I'm glad I went through that stuff, because I feel much more relaxed and calm than I ever was 3 years ago because of some of the things that I went through. So, yeah, I mean, in everyone's step, when you want to reach an ultimate goal, you got to go through those things and just keep learning. Those are the best trainers, best players, people in general, and you can learn from almost anything.
The stubborn players that don't ever let someone else penetrate that are the ones that no one wants to be a teammate with. So like that just shows that you're coachable, and that's an aspect that players need to have. Like coachable, not just by a coach, but listening to people who've done it. And that's something I learned so much later. Well, not really, but just learning that like when people are giving you advice that are older than you, like take it pretty much because they've done it. And now being in shoes where I'm older, like say than my brother, and I'm giving him advice. Not that he doesn't take it, but now I understand. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going out of my way to give him advice for a reason. And then I think back, shoot, there was probably somebody giving me advice, and I thought I already figured it out. And it's crazy because you can't penetrate that stubbornness. It's always going to be there in some respect from a younger kid, especially now when they've got everything at their fingertips and they get so much information. So they really do. They may know more than we did then, but we also know more than the people ahead of us did. So it's just like shifted, but it's still, there's a gap. And I think athletes need to have that coachability, or else people aren't going to want to play with them. They're not going to go that far.
So kind of tell us your story. Like, how did you get involved with the game? How did you even get started?
I've been playing soccer ever since I could walk or remember, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, I always was naturally athletic, and then I just took a liking to soccer. I really don't even remember why soccer became my main thing. I think that was my favorite, and I was the best at that. But my dad, when I was younger, my dad wanted me to play football. We would go out and run pass patterns all day. I was really good at wide receiver. I could kick field goals, but I was always small, so I was terrified to play football. Even Little League, but I was like, we're gonna sign you up for ankle biters. It's not that you're gonna be fine. And I was like, hell no. I was like, hell no. So I always stayed athletic, but soccer became my main gig. And then my dad had a buddy who lived in America, but he was from England, and he ended up being like my babysitter essentially for a summer or two, and he became almost just like my big brother. And he was all about soccer, Liverpool, like basically honed my love for the game because we would do so much. But what's crazy is he played basketball all the time. Like loved soccer, but like loved Michael Jordan more. So like bought me my first pair of Jordans. He had a Jordan tattoo. Like took me to see Space Jam in theaters. Like that shit was that was tight. But so he kind of honed my love for it, and then I kind of just stayed in it. But it was back, I mean, like late '90s, early 2000s, where there wasn't a lot of academies. Like I got into club, like I was in NCSL Division I, which is but like that was the top league then. And my coach, I remember when I was younger than 15, and my coach was like, well, when he gets closer to 15, which was the minimum age that DC United offered an academy, he was like, we need to try to get him in the academy. But he never did it. My parents never did it. So it's like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do anything. So I was always like good, one of the better players on my team, and honestly just thought soccer would fall in my lap. I'm like, I remember one day my mom was like, Thomas, what do you think your first job's gonna be? I was like, can you ask me this? I'm gonna go pro. You know Freddie and do? I'm gonna be like him. I wanna be, like I was like, damn, I kind of was offended that she thought I needed a job at the time. But that was my mindset, which I'm sure kids have. It's like you think soccer's gonna fall in your lap. So actually freshman year of high school, I chickened out about going to tryouts. I don't know what happened like mentally, but like I didn't go to soccer tryouts the first day. So I was like, damn. And so I went the second day. Somehow, like I went and talked to the coach. I'm like, hey, I missed the first day. I don't know. I was just like being a bitch basically. And I go the second day, and he like sends me to just where basically they had already split who was kind of good and looking at for varsity and who was going to JV. So he sends me to the JV field. He's like, yeah, just go over there. So like balled out over there for 2 days. They bring me over to varsity, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm in here now. Played in the first ever game for our high school, like varsity men's soccer game for our high school because it had just opened. And then spring break rolls around, and I always went on a trip with my family for spring break, but he had set up some scrimmages and some like practices and stuff. But I was like, hey,
you guys played in the spring in high school.
Yeah,
we played in the fall.
Yeah, so it was literally like tryouts were like President's Day, so February, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, spring break rolled around, which we hadn't had that many games. And I remember going in and being like, hey, I'm not going to be, or it was at the end of practice, I'm like, I'm not going to be here for spring break. He was like, oh, you can go back down to JV then. And I was like, what?
What?
So that was, but fast forward, him and I created the strongest bond with him as a coach, and then ended up playing varsity, and he like, junior year, he left. So my senior year had a new coach, so that threw us, and it was just me and actually my roommate. We were the only seniors that year. So we kind of got the short end of the stick because the new coach was trying to build for the younger players instead of us. And it was just kind of a crazy season. But I loved high school because we played against some top guys like out there now, like CJ Sapong, went to Forest Park. So like just being in that world, there was such a good core group of soccer players in Nova, and that just kind of accelerated my love for it. But coming out of high school, I didn't do much to get recruited on my own, and the coaches that said they would do stuff didn't either. And the other thing is my birthday falls in September, so I actually played with kids who were like 91s and
And you also could have played down.
I could have played,
93s.
right. So I could have played, so I was in between two years. So I was the oldest on my team for the most part. So the coach was more worried about it's not like the whole team was trying to get recruited, which you thought would have made it be like, okay, we got like 3 players that are about to go, or who are seniors, the rest are juniors, I should help them. And it kind of just never came, but I mean, it's not as easy to do it as it was, it's not as easy then as it is now. So I also was just like, soccer didn't feel like a priority at that point, and I don't know, you're just that age, you're kind of stubborn and think you can figure it out. Soccer, whatever, if I'm going to play, I'm going to play, like it's going to happen. So go to Mason without talking to the coach or anything, realize that I'm like missing soccer big time, see some of the players, play pickup with them, realize that I'm good enough to be playing with them, and they're asking me like where I play. They thought I was visiting the school, and I'm like, no, I go here. But at that point, like, I was too stubborn. Had been like messing up my grades just from literally skipping class for no reason, like just sleeping all day, and my grades were terrible. So even if I did want to go and play, they'd be like, you don't have the grades to play. So tried to walk on. Ended up playing club all 4 years, which was fun. We were pretty good. And then
you did PDL too, right?
Yeah. So then I was with like I ended up not playing like a full season with the Royals, but I was training with them for a while. And then after that, let's see.
And DC 23 a little bit.
Yeah. So then So then like the next round, I decided I was like, look, that's right. So then I started training. I started training. Once I realized that I wanted to train athlete, or once I figured out kinesiology was my major, and I started doing like my internships at like a gym. Started getting into training. My cousin was already training athletes for a company who I eventually started working for. But then I realized, cool, I'm like learning how to train athletes. I now need to prove that I'm an athlete. So it was like this mental switch where I'm like, all right, now I can still play soccer, and I know now I know how to train for it. So let me try to go pro. And like I realized that the USL existed, that every team does open tryouts. So I'm like, all right, let's do that. Yeah. So I spent about a year and some change. And I think I hit you up before the first time I went to Richmond. I went to Richmond twice. The first time I remember being like, yo, coming down there. In my head, I'm like, yo, he's gonna talk to the coach. You know, it's like, but now, like, you all have no say. It's whatever. Yeah. So I go down there, and I spent a year going to different tryouts. I played with DC's U23s. I was training with them for like a couple months, and then as soon as summer hit, they bring all their academy people back in, and it's like, oh, we forgot about you, whatever. Yeah. It is what it is. That was some top-notch training though. Like that felt good to be out there.
DC23 was good.
Just getting training from a high-level coach and feeling competent and being able to do it. I was like, all right, even if this doesn't come of anything, I got some quality training under my belt for the next thing that I do. So bounced around to every tryout I could drive to, and went to one out in California. And it was always like that gray area. Like you get to the end, you're playing with the players who are obviously they're actually looking at, and then it's like, all right, you'll hear from us in a couple of weeks, and it's like, cool, I ain't hearing from you.
Yeah, you know.
No, sir, I know. But and so then I didn't necessarily give up, but it was like, I was literally training and still in school, like finishing up at Mason. I'd have clients in the morning, drive to Fairfax to class, drive back out in rush hour, train more clients, train myself, and then do it again like the next day.
So you started becoming a trainer back in school.
Right, yeah. So what was cool is that I got the job for the company that my cousin was already working for, and was able to use that as my internship, but I'm getting paid because I was literally working there. Yeah. So I got to use that as my internship and was able to start before getting my degree, because I sat for my certification and got my certification before I graduated too. So that was kind of cool because it overlapped, but I was like strung out, not in a sense that I like it was bad for me, but like literally, like I said, all day, boom, client, class, client, train myself.
This is in college too. Like
yeah.
Your senior year?
Yeah, that was
right. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, I was commuting. There was no, because I wasn't that far away from Mason, so it wasn't like. Yeah, so and I wanted to be making money because I was listening to my mom.
We're trying out with some USL teams.
Yeah, so that's why I was training myself for certain weekends coming up, like in the winter, like the January window, February. Yeah. Going to all those open tryouts. And there was a week, like even in December, I remember I went to like the first weekend, Evergreen held a combine. The next weekend, there was back-to-back. It was like Harrisburg City had their tryouts Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, I had to be like down in Wilmington or something for another one. So I had played, which is so stupid now that I'm a trainer and know like how the body works and how like what's optimal. I'm like playing like 4 days in a row, like hard as shit, need to get seen. Ugh, miserable, dude. Like those drives were crushed.
Oh yeah.
But the cool part is I learned so much from it, just from what it takes to be pro. Like, and you have to have your best day. The coach has to be watching you. The specific moment you do something good, they happen to look up and you miss a tackle. They're never looking at you again.
I know.
And I'm not saying that happened, and it's not an excuse, but it absolutely happens. So you got to know as a kid coming up into that like sometimes you can be at your peak, but it just may not come to fruition at all. And it doesn't mean that you need to quit or you need to like feel shitty about yourself.
Right.
But it's like that can happen. Like I told you that one time one of the tryouts I've had one of my best days ever. And even at Mason, I had one of my best days ever. It felt like nobody saw. You know, like it just doesn't matter sometimes. So it's hit or miss. And then you'll see kids make rosters, and you're like, that dude is legit ass. He's not even good. It's crazy. Yeah, and it is.
There's so much that's just one of the things now that I'm a pro.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know these things, but man, there's a lot of things that's just out of your control. Like sometimes they just go for the cheaper younger options or the local kid because they know like
it'll be a good headline.
It'll be a good headline. Like all the little things, man. Like, and it's unfair because you know, talent-wise, talent should always speak and talent should get you there. But it's deeper than that. Like,
it is for sure, and it's not but it can't be something that you're like always talking about excuse-wise. Like, I got shafted because of this. It's like, well, yeah, but it's the name of the game. But I didn't even know like you had to go to more tryouts to make teams after already being in the USL. Like that's crazy to me.
After already being
that's not fair to the kids who haven't even been in the USL and are trying to get seen.
You know what I mean?
It's like because they're gonna look at you. They're like, oh, we got some USL guys. We're just gonna watch them.
Man, I'm telling
that's
you,
crazy.
Like, there's people I know now that probably would never have done it. Like after 4 years in the league with some success, my third year, like coming into fourth, and like that was just this past off season.
Yeah,
2 or 3
crazy.
teams I'm trying out with like. One team's like, you know, cut me after 3-4 days, not necessarily just because I'm not talented, they're just like, we know you can play, well, good luck with everything.
We don't need a center back right now.
Try it out with another team.
We knew that 4 days ago, but thanks for
coming. You know what I mean? Yeah. Knew that 4
we
days.
needed a body actually this whole week, so, and you could have been 4 days with somebody else.
That's exactly, bro, that is exactly, man, I'm telling you.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I know dudes now that are like, oh, never, ever, and realistically, we shouldn't be trying out. It's really just a money thing. It's really a chance for us to get hurt. And if something did happen while you're on trial, like there's your chance. That's it. But that's why I'm here and I'm still grinding and things. Fast forward a year later, like I'm here now too. So I can't. It sucked then last year. It was one of the toughest times of my life, but I'm very appreciative.
You were probably in that like, damn, am I gonna make a team?
Seriously, it was like, should I hang up the boots? Should I like stick to coaching? Like, I have no income now. So it's like, man, like, yeah, you're thinking about everything.
I know.
For us athletes, though, you know, what workouts should we be doing specifically kind of tailored to us?
Well, nothing that you see on Instagram. You don't need, you know, my philosophy more so now than it was when I started. Like if it was when I started, it'd be like such a dumb thing, but it needs to be looked at on a big scale, like macro throughout a year, season, off season. I mean, for y'all, it's more structured because it's just one season. You're like your pro season, and then it's long as shit, but it's still a structure. It's not like in the off season you're off. You guys need to be doing other training. Where in high school, it's like they don't have an off season right now.
Yeah.
So my main thing for high school athletes is to even younger, like middle school, high school, play as many sports as you can, and understand that more work doesn't equal better. One of the things some of the guys that I've learned from, like I didn't make this up by any means, but do whatever is necessary, not all that's possible. You know, and like nowadays, and I was just at the conference, and Henk Kregenhoff, he's like he's a world record holding sprint coach from the Netherlands. Like he's trained these like he's like an older guy trained like these top sprinters in the world, Olympic world record holder people. He was one of the people presenting, and I'd heard him say it on a call. He's like, athletes need to understand, you need to do everything that is necessary, not everything that's possible. But nowadays, you see so much like, oh, so-and-so stayed after practice, he's putting in like again, there was a video on Instagram the other day of James Harden, like apparently after the game, he's like back in the gym, like doing bench press and stuff. I'm like, that's not what high school athletes need to be doing. There's so much other stuff. There's studies out about sleep. It's like if you aren't getting X amount of sleep, you're predisposing yourself to become injured. There's studies that it's literal graphs. The longer you sleep, the less rate of injury there is. So for athletes, as far as working out, I don't even think you should be focused on that. You should be focused on your recovery more than working out, like your stretching and your sleep and
longevity, like you said.
Longevity, exactly. It can't be I need to be strong because that will make me better. It does, but there's a place and time for it. So my advice is to get advice from a coach, like somebody who can teach you or sit down and look at your schedule and be like, this chunk of time you need to be focused on this. This chunk of time you need to focus on that. And kids don't have access to that. They have access to freaking ladder drills, soccer videos, and they think they need to stay after practice. I mean, getting touches is one thing, but like doing dumbass dumbbell like squats and on a balance ball, like it's just so extra.
You're honing in on your skills, especially when you're young, and talent will get you there. And then when you get to professional, like look at me, like, you know, like obviously.
Look at Kevin Durant.
You know what I mean? Look at there's a lot. I can go down a bunch of players. You don't need to be swole, dude. It's not really about that. It's like longevity. It's about honing on your skill, because your skill is ultimately going to take you the furthest. And then like you'll add on, you know, some muscle. You add on some more speed. Yeah. All those little things, but your skill and your craft is what you should be honing in on and working in on.
Yes, that's a major like conundrum in American soccer, is because they'll see bigger, stronger, faster, and like, oh shit, I'm gonna keep my eye on him. And we just talked about this at the conference because there were some soccer coaches there. The skills coaches, they're just looking at that. It's an eye test, and they're looking at the size and what they physically are. And then they think, which my mentor, Coach Kev, was talking about, he's like, they see it and they're like, oh, I can teach them the skill. They're like, cool, his body's already where I want it, I can teach him the skill. And then they bring him in and boom, he gets injured. And it's like, that's not what you need. So yeah, work on your skill, do everything barefoot. Like foot, feet, especially for soccer players, getting your ankles strong, your calves, your toes, your feet, all that stuff, do it barefoot. It's so good. Like I could talk all day about what they should be doing, but mainly not. You don't need to be looking for this
What
exercise.
should they be doing to improve, though? You know, like whether that's from, like you said, getting advice from other coaches and stuff, but certain drills they should be doing specifically, like.
I mean, from an exercise standpoint, working on your speed, working on your mechanics, like just movement skills. There's so many parents who are like, I need my kid needs skill training, my kid needs this, my kid needs that, but the kid can't even do like an A skip or a march. They don't know how to move properly.
Technique, yeah.
So like even without a ball, I take any soccer player without a ball and make sure that they even are athletic and can move their body properly before teaching them skill training. Like juggling or just little dribbling is one thing. Like just dribbling through cones, it's good. But be able to move your body, because how often are you on the ball anyway? Like yeah, you need to be top notch when you're on it.
Right,
but a lot of positioning, a lot of the stuff that coaches are looking for without the ball, like you need to still be a complete athlete. So,
for sure.
But just improving in general, it's like we talked about before. Ask people. Ask questions.
Learn,
Be around the older kids. Be around the guys who've been doing it. Be around the ones who have been successful doing it. And I'm not saying model their behaviors. They're completely different than you. But learn from everybody who's been there. Like if I were to go back, I'd ask so many questions to anybody. Like that's my number one thing that I'll tell people advice-wise is just ask. Like you're not gonna know until you admit that you don't, and that's huge for like high school kids. Just be curious as shit, because you're gonna learn either way. Like you either were right and they're gonna validate that what you may have been thinking was right, or they're gonna completely flip your perspective and you're like, holy shit. Maybe I don't need to do 100 jump squats before practice. It's like, I don't need to stay after and tap a balanced ball.
For real.
You know?
In your opinion, though, why is a trainer like very important to a team? Especially like if I'm a coach, it's like, man, I need to hire a trainer, but why is a trainer almost as important as a coach?
Because they're two completely different aspects of sport. The coach is there to know tactics, and pretty much that's it, essentially. Like there's the psychological part of being a coach, but I think both a trainer and a coach should possess that part, like how to motivate, understanding that every player has a different personality and is motivated differently. Like those are two aspects that coaches in general, it's a universal term, should possess. But when it comes down to the skill of each coach, the skill of a head coach is tactics, understanding the game, understanding how to teach the game from a tactical standpoint. They should not have any part, I mean, unless they have a background in it, in like physical preparation, which is so blurred now because there's not funding to fund a trainer and a head coach. So the head coach has to half-ass learn how to, and that's why you see kids just running suicides and like dumb shit. It becomes random, and they start to think, well, what did we do? Oh, we did like suicides and all this stuff, or like, so not to get into specifically what's wrong, but they have a role, and the trainer has a role, and if it's a good performance coach, they know movement skills, they understand warm up and stretching and recovery. That's their wheelhouse. That's what they should be brought in for. The coach should not have to worry about that because it just adds to his plate and it waters down something. He's taking time away from studying tactics, studying film to be like, oh damn, what's the warm-up going to be today? Or I need to give them some homework exercises to do. So then he Googles soccer exercises, prints it out, and it's like absolute shit. So the trainer's there because they understand the body as opposed to understanding the game, and a good one is super necessary just because of that.
If you want a very good, successful team, you need to have a very good, successful trainer, especially in the professional world.
I'm sure you've seen it.
Like, even guys now are trying to get little injuries and stuff like that, and it's been coming to recover. Like how you need to recover properly, not just recover properly because you don't want to tweak something else and then you're done again for X amount of months and stuff too. Like, person's body's different, and the trainer needs to have that relationship. Like the coach obviously has a relationship in one different way, like you said. But from the other side, like the trainer needs to be able to read or even just watch how they run on the field. Like, oh man, so and so's hurting. Like,
or they're about to be.
They're
favoring something.
Me before training tomorrow, or stick around after this training. Like we're gonna do, ice tub maybe. I'm gonna rub you out, get a massage. Like just whatever you need to be. Like the coach can't be seeing both of those things a lot of the time too. So I feel like their role to an extent is almost as important as the coach.
Yeah.
Especially like when you get into these bigger teams with bigger players and stuff, and you starting to rely on these players. Like It's like, all right, well, I need so and so for next weekend. And he's hurting, but my trainer, I need you to do.
And that's the other thing is head coaches, they have a different agenda. Their agenda is win because they've got somebody looking at them. In college, same deal. Like you're pressured, so it's like best athlete's got to play. Don't care about his injury. Whereas a trainer is looking long term, looking out for the health of the player. So it's two different mindsets that are clashing. And then there's like we can't pay a trainer, you know. So it's tough. That's the problem.
On that line though, like talk about injuries, kind of like the importance of rehab.
I mean, rehab's huge. Rehab's huge, but rehab, it sucks that it even exists. Because if you prep right, you don't need to be injured. Granted, there's obviously it's not a 100% thing, but so rehab will always exist. But you prep right, way less chance you're going to need the rehab. Now, fast forward, you didn't prep right, you end up injured. You need to take the time. And dealing with high school athletes all the time, the number one thing I'm telling them from an injury standpoint is I'm like, look, as hard as you think it's going to be, and as frustrating as it's going to be to come to the gym and just do recovery stuff while the rest of your teammates are doing full speed stuff, take the time now to fully recover and strengthen and get back to where you need to be, because 5 years from now, 2 years from now, looking back on that little bit of time will be so small, but you'll be so much better, as opposed to rushing back and then 1 year from now taking another 6 months out, 2 years from now taking a year out because you needed surgery. It's like all of that shit adds up, and I'm like, trust me. And I have this conversation once a week at my old facility. I'm like, look, you're with me today. The rest of the people are with the other coach. They're doing their workout. You're with me for rehab, and I'll tell you over and over again the whole time. Keep doing this. This is what's going to get you back to 100, and you're not going to get injured again. We just had a girl who was with us. She had been at that facility before I even got there, so she's like a veteran there. Should be good. Ends up doing something to her hip, had to get hip surgery. Right before I left, she was getting cleared from PT, but had been doing a ton of rehab stuff with me, with us there. Just now learned she tore her ACL because she went back to play too soon. Because her head coach wanted her to play because she's one of his best defenders. Committed to Georgia. She's a senior this year. We got her back. She decides to go play, and when she plays, she's like a balls to the wall, like mean girl defender. And and I'm not sure which leg it was, but not being strong and ready to go, like you need to, as stubborn, and the thing was she would come back and she'd be like, yeah, I played, I feel really good, like it didn't hurt. It's like, yeah, your hip didn't hurt, but your hip is weak as shit, so you're relying on other stuff. You're lucky you didn't get injured the first play of that game.
One step away from it.
Exactly, at all times.
And this stuff now, from a recruiting standpoint, the heck, Georgia coaches now, like, she's a liability.
It's an ACL, bro.
ACL right there, and that's money for the college. Like this,
that's ridiculous.
That's frustrating.
It's like,
so from that standpoint, though, so you're injured, you turn an ACL. Like, how important is the mental toughness now in dealing with these kind of injuries?
It's ridiculous. I can't imagine it because I never had something that kept me out that long, so I can't really speak to actually going through the amount of time it takes, but knowing that it's right has to be the reassuring factor. So like you have to have somebody reinforcing it over and over again. It can be your parent, probably not a parent, because most kids, a trainer can tell the kid the exact verbatim word for word that their parents did, and they're like, oh my god, well Coach Thomas said to do it, and then the parent's like, Thomas, I hate you, but thank you, I've been saying that shit, and so the reinforcement needs to come from somewhere, and it can't just be like a once a week or like every time you see them one time, it's like, hey, we keep doing this. It's got to be like, because it's ACL, you're out for a minute, and it's long enough that they're going to be like just bored of it, over it. It's the most mundane baby exercises, but you know what exercise will keep you from getting an ACL tear? All those baby exercises that you don't want to do. So the mental toughness, like I said, I can't speak to it because I never had to go through it. But I've been on the side where I have to be the motivator, and they're so thankful later, looking back. So always pick somebody who's had an ACL tear and actually came out of it. Random, but like Darius Geis now has Adrian Peterson on his team to help coach him through the player side of coming back from an ACL tear. So like you need something like that. Otherwise, you're just gonna be grasping for information and always wonder if what you're doing is right. No, pick someone who did it right, have them walk you through it, or a coach that knows what to do. Like you just gotta you gotta be vulnerable and realize, look, I need help.
Right. So how should us athletes kind of prepare for games? Like, should we start a couple days in advance, a week in advance? Like, what, from your perspective, what's kind of the best way to prepare?
So probably not the answer you want, but once it gets to in season, it should come down to more to individual athletes, how you mentally prep for a game, because you don't want them changing their routine. You know, like if it's
what's a good routine now?
I mean, it depends on your week. Like you have to back out to bigger picture, and like your week, you should never be. You don't need to be doing high volume stuff in season. Like you need to be. I mean, we can go off your schedule. Like y'all, let's say every week you play on Saturday.
Yeah.
You guys typically have what, Sunday and Monday off, but you're doing recovery stuff. Every day we're doing stretching, flexibility, and some like basic body weight exercise stuff. But so then head coach runs the tapering of the practice portion. You don't really need to be doing anything else.
Right.
Like get your sleep, get your recovery from like stretching, whatever modalities you enjoy, because once you get there, that's like such a minor piece. As long as you're getting recovery that your body responds well to, whether it's ice tubs, stretching, rub downs, whatever, all of that is beneficial with big scheme in season. So it comes down to how you feel like when you're playing. You should already be physically ready for the season, so then once you're in season, you just need to mentally be on. Like, because your physicality stuff, there's nothing more you can do to prep. It's just the recovery that you should be working on. So as far as a routine, there's no standard routine. Like, you need to recover when you're off, and you need to be ready to go when you're on. And
what about like meal-wise? Certain meals night before the game, or a couple days before a game?
Yeah, I mean, that's another one that's like, you need protein to recover. So, I mean, a protein-heavy meal after a game is huge. Keeping water, I mean, even like depending where you're getting your protein, you may need to supplement. You could supplement with BCAAs, but like not at the high school level. That's not something that they should be worried about. In high school, since that's probably that's the main people that we're talking to, they need to be eating anything.
Yeah.
Like, we bring kids in our facility, we would give them a 2-week nutrition log. We're lucky if they even fill this shit out, right? Like, think about when we were in high school and just eating. In general, it's miserable. You get up late, you run into the bus, or you're like, I missed the bus, someone needs to drive me to school. It's like, what about breakfast? Fuck breakfast, I'm gonna be late.
Yeah.
Or you get a damn like hash brown with ketchup on the way into school. Like it's so you have to figure out, you have to know what you're dealing with. Ideal situation, you have a breakfast meal prep for you when you wake up. That's like anything. There's nothing specific. It could be fruit, it could be eggs, it could be a granola bar at that point. But like, ideally you're eating, and then if you have practice later on in the day, ideally you've had something for lunch that's gonna fuel you through that. But specifically for high school kids, it's like just eat everything at this point, because y'all aren't eating enough anyway.
Yeah.
You just need food, and the specifics of it don't really matter at that point, because your body's just using it. So I don't want to give anybody like a meal plan to just because it shouldn't matter. Don't worry about it so much. On Sunday, make yourself 20 peanut butter sandwiches and put them in baggies, so then during the day you just have shit to eat. Because protein, I mean, peanut butter's got protein, and you get carbs from the bread and fats from the peanut butter, so that's a perfect snack to just at least be getting calories that you're burning all day long. But for y'all, I mean, eat protein after the game. Eat what you know feels good to fuel you, because you guys have been in it long enough that you know how certain foods affect how you play, and everybody's bodies are going to respond different. So,
what's kind of like your goals in all of this?
My goals are, I mean, I want to be involved in soccer kind of forever. I enjoy coaching, but I don't think I want to like head coach soccer. I think I want to be able to give this type of information to clubs, or even if I can't spread myself that thin, at least be with one club exclusively, or be like a consultant for clubs that is like opening coaches' brains to, hey, we need this. And then the next day be like, okay, we're back to soccer, we forgot all about that. Yeah, like
just as
I want to open the minds of that stuff and really dial into how to smartly bring it into a club, or even just one team. You know, it doesn't. So like my goal is very open-ended, but I want it to be like infiltrating the soccer community and being known as like the go-to soccer performance guy.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, there's other guys like that, which they need to be, but like that's what's necessary. I think even at the youth level is like, let's stop. There's too much information, and it needs to be dialed in on what's actually right. And that needs to become like a standard from everybody. So I mean, getting to there would be cool, but while physically being able to train soccer athletes and stuff, you know, so it doesn't have to be anything super huge. I don't need to be with a pro club, like, because they're gonna have their own agenda. It's like I'm not gonna be able to go in and change shit. Maybe ultimately once I'm older and have a ton of stuff on my resume that a pro team is gonna trust me, that could be a goal. To like infiltrate even at a higher level and have it trickle down, but you gotta start small.
Do you have any advice for, you know, up-and-coming trainers, some young athletes, even just us professional athletes?
Young trainers realize that you don't know anything. Even I don't know anything. I know some stuff, but that's still nothing compared to like grand scheme of what I wish I knew or where I want to be at knowledge-wise. Like I don't, you know. So young trainers, remember that you don't know anything, and you're probably wrong a lot, because I've been wrong. I mean, I can look back at like programs I've written and be like, holy crap, that was terrible. But understand that that's always going to be changing, and get a mentor. Trainers, get a mentor for sure. At least one, because it's somebody who's been in it, like that can give you advice. It's huge. You're not gonna learn it on your own, and if you are, you're probably learning it wrong. So, getting a mentor was huge for me. Has 180 my trajectory. Young athletes, same idea, just different realm. Like get a mentor, learn from someone who actually cares about you as an athlete and not about being able to say that they helped you, you know? Like the agenda has to be in line. Like, so maybe your head coach doesn't have the time to actually help you because he's worried about his life at the moment, winning games or whatever he's got going on, you know? It's tough, but ask questions, and that's why you kind of have to just, it can be from anybody, but you're not gonna figure it all out on your own, which we touched on plenty, but that would be my number one go-to for advice. Mentally, and then physically for players would be recovery, flexibility, movement skills and speed, strength very low on it, you know, just because like it's the opposite of what we were talking about before. You got a strong kid, you think you teach him skill. I'd rather the kid have skill to the fullest, and then we can work on what is leaking, because he's not predisposed to injury at that point necessarily. So for players, it's you know, get in with a coach who actually knows what they're doing, and think about your career long term. Don't just think, all right, this season I need to ball out, because what about next season? This season's gonna be gone. You know, like if you were to have gone into the USL thinking about peaking like in your 5th year, you would have approached it probably differently. Not that you did it in a wrong way, but like looking back, you would think about it completely different. So for athletes, like think where you want to be. If you're in middle school, you're not thinking about college, which sucks. And most parents would be like, oh, we don't have to think about it yet. But also like you could set them up majorly if you kind of did think about it. Or like, my senior year of college, I want to be winning this or doing this. Okay, now let's backtrack. How do we get there? Not like this season I want you to score 10 goals. You know, it's like make it a big, look at your career big long term, and then work your way back and figure out what help you need to get there on the way, the right way, so that you're peaking where you want to peak. Just like in a workout or a workout program, figure out where the peaks need to be. You need to work into them, you know. Yeah.
Joe, I appreciate you coming
Oh
on the
yeah,
show.
man. I appreciate it too. I feel like I just
It's a great, awesome
I can
episode.
talk all
Nah,
day
yeah,
about
we're
this
gonna
stuff,
talk about
dude.
this stuff all day,
Oh,
but
man.
it's great information.
especially
I
coming off a
appreciate-
conference and
I
I'm like
know, right?
my head's all in the training mindset.
But I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for listening, footy fans. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts as well. Follow Thomas, please, on Instagram. If you guys needed anything, you appreciated what he did, shoot him a DM on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Let him know that you appreciate what he did and what he talked about. Stay tuned for future shows coming out soon.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon, footy fans.